Hey everybody, welcome back. Tonight we're going to be drawing Spider-Man. Pretty excited. You know, the thing about Spider-Man that I've always liked is the fact that, he always seems to be really burdened. He's a very burdened character. I mean, it's kind of a contrast, because he's also one of the mouthier characters. I mean, he was pretty much probably the mouthiest Marvel character prior to Deadpool coming on the scene. I remember team ups with him, like he would team up with the Avengers. And again, Spidey was just a kid. When you really think about it, he's not an adult. When he has his powers, he's just, he's in high school and stuff. So that's an interesting thing. I think many of us, as adults, have learned to carry burdens that we just don't talk about. The classic storyline of Spider-Man, Peter Parker, he feels responsible, this responsibility. Because if we remember, the Tobey Maguire movies were pretty true to the comics, at least the first one was. I mean, I'm not critiquing anything, guys. But we remember why, he had this burden, and it was basically he didn't catch there was a guy that ran past him that the cops were trying to get, and they're like, "Hey, why didn't you help us?" And Peter was like, "It's not my problem," and this is after his powers had manifested. There's a lot of different takes on it, but he's like basically like, it's not my problem, why should I get involved, kind of a thing. And then in the classic story, we find out that thief or whoever the cops were trying to get, that dude ends up shooting Peter's Uncle Ben. And so Peter's racked with guilt. And this is after his Uncle Ben had tried to tell him, with great power comes great responsibility. And I think there's a lot of guilt in the way Peter does things, It's hard to be a kid and carry a burden like that. And I think a lot of us enter into adulthood and we're still carrying things around, things from our childhood. And that's another reason why I love superheroes so much, is because, the more I think about superheroes and Jungian psychology, well, what the common theme there is, Carl Jung says we're all wearing masks. Some masks are healthier than others to wear, because you think about masks, and masks keep us safe, just like Peter, because what's the danger of people knowing who he is? Well, not only is he a minor, but he's got Aunt May to think about. And I love I love the Marvel Cinematic Universes, how they kind of changed up Aunt May to be Marissa Tomei, this hot little aunt, instead of the kind of very, very old Aunt May in the traditional comics. I mean, she was just very, if something happened to Peter, she would be very much on her own, and I think Peter knew that now that his uncle was gone, and that was a source of a lot of conflict in a lot of the comics, was him trying to keep his identity, under wraps and keep May protected. And but yeah, I think we do. I think we deal with a lot of burdens. I relate to Spider-Man a lot. I wouldn't say he's my favorite hero. I love drawing him. I really do. Like this pose could be a lot more dynamic. Like when I think of Spider-Man 2, like I could have drawn a very dynamic pose, where he's basically like got his arms all, up here and his feet, and why didn't I do that? I don't know. I'm gonna get rid of that. It's a sketchbook, guys. It's my art. I can doodle whatever I want in the background. Oh, there's no sponsor for tonight's video, but have you ever been using one of your pens or one of your pencils and it gets way, way small? Now I can still draw with this because I'm that good. But maybe you're not. So you're asking yourself, well, rather than just throw them away, again, I'm a artists, man, we can be frugal. They got one of these things out there on the market. And what it is it's a pencil extender. And if you're familiar with this, cool beans, great. If you're not, though, I want to turn you on to this because, especially like for little kids, if you got colored pencils, this thing, I think I got to hit it with the rubber cement because it's coming apart. Anyway, but see, check that out. Now I've got something I can really control. I can, and this guy stays alive a little bit longer. You can keep him in the collection. This guy's kind of on his way. He's getting down there. But there's no pressure as we sketch Spidey together. And the cool thing is, whether you're drawing along with me or not, I'm glad you're here. You can be listening or drawing, it doesn't matter. I'll do the drawing. You can drive. So there's other poses I could have done, but we're just going to keep it simple. And if you want some really fantastic looking poses, you should you guys have heard of Todd McFarlane. And he really, before he came out with his trademark Spawn character, when he left Marvel and went off to do his own thing with Image Comics, I think that's where he started everything. Him and a bunch of other guys. There's a special on, is it Amazon? I think it's on either Prime or Netflix where it talks about their story. These guys going, we're done with you, Marvel, we're taking off, and they went off to do their own thing, and just how things blew up in the 90s for them. Some of you guys are like, the 90s? Good Lord, I wasn't even born. Well, whatever. Just check it out. It's a really interesting time in comics history. So, anyway. So, one line at a time, guys. One line at a time. Now, I don't like his eye placement. I don't. In fact, his head's kind of wide. I'm going to change up his head. See, again, that's why I use soft lines. I can come in here. Some of these guys, all they do is draw for a living. I don't. I wish I did. But they've got it really worked out. See, because what I'm trying to convey here is his head's tilting toward us a little bit. Okay? Like his nose might be down here more, meaning his mouth is going to be down here, so his head's going to be a little bit more tilted. And that's why we put those lines in there, to kind of have an idea of where the head's going to be. Now, it's almost like his forehead's right here, okay? Oh, I could draw a bullseye. Hey, I'm not gonna do that. It's awful big. But I just want to show you guys. That's the thought. That's the thought behind this, okay? Is when you draw a head, think of it like it's on a grid, okay? So you can draw any egg shape you want, and you can change that axis. It's almost like an axis line. You know what I mean? So what do I mean? Let's talk math here. So like excuse me. So the most boring in comics is just the head on. See where the X marks the spot there? But if you want the head to turn one way or the other, a good way to do that is make a line that just kind of follows the circumference. See how I arc it? So again, there would be an eye, there would be an eye. Okay, see, so there's that one. And then if this one turns this way, do you guys see that? Like if these lines were moving, again, it's like an axis. Let's tilt his head upward too. Oh, look at that. See what we just did? See, and then you're in control. If you can kind of control where this center line goes, that's how you can change. And again, I'm gonna have the messiest drawings here, you guys. I hope you don't mind. All right. I don't know if I should talk about current things in the theater or not, because in a few months, if not a year, it's going to be all dated. But who cares? I'm going to go see the Mortal Kombat movie tomorrow with friends. I was never really into Mortal Kombat. That was never really my game. But I heard Carl Urban's in it, and I like Carl Urban as an actor. Plays Billy Butcher in The Boys. I was also talking him up in a previous video because he played Judge Dredd, and he played him right. So, respect. So anyway, I'm going to do the traditional suit for Spider-Man, the red and blue. That's why I'm using a red pencil, because I'm getting ahead of the game, guys. If you know that you're going to color something a certain color, even though, I had all sorts of choices. I could have gone blue, got a blue color ace. This is kind of a lighter blue though, and I didn't want to use it because it gets obnoxious for you guys to see it. But I also have a nice little violet one here, which it doesn't match the color at all. So why would I do that? So I'm just sticking with red. Plus I can see red pretty good. I think it's because it's the bottom of the color spectrum or whatever. That's what I understand. I'm gonna get all fancy and scientific. Well, anyway, so there's that. So one of the most iconic things about Spidey is his mask. And the cool thing about, that grid line I was just showing you, if you can use that grid line, and I know for a fact that they do for his webbing, like they just leave it right in there. The only thing is that, like, as the line comes down, it kind of breaks this way. And then the webbing like this. See, I mean, look how simple that is. And of course, remember your contours. See, because it's not a flat, this isn't a flat surface. Well, I mean, yeah, this is a flat surface. But if you want to draw something looking three-dimensional, again, that line is going to curve. It's going to arc around, right? So just something to keep in mind. And even if you don't get it right the first time, that's totally cool. You'll figure it out, or somebody will point it out to you. Hopefully with, not being all annoyed and stuff. Gosh, don't you know what you're doing? It's like, well, I thought I did. Gosh, now I'm embarrassed. No, that's all right. You can be embarrassed. I'll be embarrassed with you. I'll hang with you. Okay, anyway, so I don't like his eyes, but the point is we're going to change that up because they got to get thicker, right? Because it's not so much the outer part It's that inner part, remember, where the white is? That's the part of his mask. So again, Jungian archetypes. And if you don't know what that is, look it up, check it out. But basically, again, we all wear masks. Some of our masks are unhealthy. Some of them are very healthy. And again, when Peter puts his mask on, look at this, watch. See, I can do those lines right here. See that? Look how easy that is. Oh man, see? And again, you want to make them kind of move in. They get a little bit bigger as they move. And then wherever you intersect those lines in, and it's not an exact science, but it looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. Now I know some guys that come in and they make it really tight. But oh, I love that. Look at that. Oh, that's so much fun. That's a blast to draw. And then, the the lines get a little bit more complex as they weave around the body, and thank God his legs are blue. So we don't have to worry about that. However, let's block in where his so hey, look at that. Groovy, man. I'm not a hippie, but I was kind of raised by one. My mom came out of that hippie generation. She wasn't a hippie, though. At least that's what she says. So if you hear throwback words from the 70s, I'm not that old. I was a little kid in the 70s. Let's give him some bigger shoulders. What do you say? I could actually squeeze him in. I could make this a little bit more narrow, but yeah. Whatever. There's a comic artist out there. His name's Humberto Ramos. I want you to check him out, okay? Because his Spider-Man is really cool. I don't want to give anybody else, I don't want to do a disservice to any other artist though, but Mr. Ramos, his the way he draws Spidey, oh man, it's got this kind of fusion of it. Well, it's like manga in a way, but it's not. It's a fusion of a few different things, but it's so angular. Like the exaggeration in his forearms. Like his forearms, if he was to do it, like I'll just do it for you. You see how pronounced that is? Like his stuff, like it's like in animation they call it squash and stretch. It's like things are bigger or smaller and accented. And the way he does it, it's just kind of, and again, people's, true anatomy doesn't look like that, but it serves the same kind of purpose, doesn't it? Because when you hear about, what are some of the terms that people use for someone who's buff? They say chiseled, and chiseled is interestingly the way that it looks on there. Anyway, but that's fun. So you can see how I just throw the lines in there. There's no really heavy definition just yet, because I might change this up a little bit. I might not like it. I love drawing hands. Hands scare people because it's like, oh, and sometimes my hands don't look the greatest when I draw them, but you just keep playing with it, and sooner or later it'll work itself out. You can fix it. It's just kind of like getting back to what we were talking about with Peter Parker. He just keeps going. He keeps at it. He's got problems in the comics. Well, that hand just looks crazy. That's a weird looking hand. What am I doing? Anyway, your drawings are going to look weird, and that's okay. I give you permission. If you need permission, I'm going to give it to you here. If you need permission to draw something badly until you figure it out, I give you permission right now. Okay? You have the authority to do that. It's called artistic license. And again, I'm not drawing Nightcrawler here. But his hands are kind of, they're smashed. So you got to think about, the perspective. It's smashed, it's flat. So you're not going to see all the details. Like, it's there. Just whatever gets by. And I think, I can leave it at that. This leg back here, I'm going to throw in a little bit more detail. It's kind of like, yeah, there we go. Something like that. Anyway, you get the gist. You get the idea. So there he is in all his glory. And we're going to put the Spidey in there. And you can basically, I've seen a lot of iterations on how to do this. Again, I studied bugs, if you want to do some segmenting and stuff. But just remember, spiders have 8 legs. It reminds me of a story when my kids were really little. And I think I might be repeating myself at this point. But I'm just going to do it again because it's a fun story. We moved into this townhouse, and my wife of the time said, "Oh, that's a weird looking spider." And for whatever, I don't know what possessed me, but I said, "Well, why is it weird?" And she said, "It's red." And then I said, "How many legs does it have?" She says 6. And I'm like, ooh, because I knew it immediately what that was. That's a tick. It wasn't a spider. And then we, how you, what do you do that? You clean your oven? Yeah, like, how you clean the oven. So you got to turn it on and you put the cleaner in there and whatever. Well, we turned that oven on, and you guys, this small horde of red deer ticks or dog ticks or whatever they were came crawling out from under that stove. And it was facing an area right in front of our sliding glass door. And my kids were little, man. And we had this infestation already. Gross. Ugh. It was like, okay, everybody, I'm gonna go play in your rooms. I think my kids at the time were like, they were really young. They were like maybe 4 and 2. My others hadn't been born yet, but we figured out what happened. The previous owner had a pet that they couldn't quite take care of. I think they were disabled themselves, and they just had an animal. I don't know if it was a cat or a dog, but we would find these grease marks on the walls. Yeah, sorry guys. I love animals, but dang, I love my kids more. So I was just like all upset. I was like, what the hell? Yeah, but I had a friend who worked in pest control, so he hooked us up. But yeah, but he said that too. He's like, yeah, you get ticks. And it was just gross. Like, I am itching myself talking about this. Anyway, but I love Spider-Man. I think Tom Holland did a marvelous job. I've liked all the Spider-Mans, even Tobey Maguire and was it Andrew Garfield? I think the success of Tom Holland is because Tom Holland's so young, as opposed to Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. They just got, they just were miscast, I guess. Well, they weren't miscast. They did a good job. The point that I'm trying to make, guys, is they were older guys playing a young kid, basically. And that's never going to work out. But my hat's off to them. I think they did I think not the current Spider-Man, the one that they're working on or whatever, but the third one where it brought all of those guys from the multiverse. Man, that was cool. It's so good. There's some really good writing in the MCU, and there's some really bad writing. But you guys, I know what you're talking. I hope you know what I'm talking about. Some of those series out there, I'm like, what the heck? Who wrote this? It's really offensive. Terrible. You gotta respect the fans, you guys. If I was going to write a Spider-Man story, I would, be really careful. Any genre of film, like whether it be Star Wars or Star Trek, and again, and I know I'm repeating myself now, but there we go. There's Spidey. Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, I think we're nearly done. We're nearly done. And again, it's just like that, guys. The way this costume goes. Sorry. Unintentional mouth sounds right there. I watch ASMR. I'm not trying to be ASMR. I just know I have a really chill voice. One of my old girlfriends. Oh, this is not a compliment, I don't think, to me, but my voice was soothing, I guess. She's like, oh, whenever you talk, I just want to go to sleep. And I would just like be, oh, that's great. I'm boring, neat. But then I'm realizing, some people have more of a, I don't know, they've got that tone in their voice. Geez, I've left voice messages for people and I've listened to them and I'm like, I sound like Winnie the Pooh or Kermit the Frog. We are critical, aren't we? We're the most critical to ourselves. Yeah, I don't want to hear it. You guys think I sound like Winnie the Pooh. I don't want to hear that. No, I'm kidding. Winnie the Pooh rocks. He's cool, man. So yeah, I think if you want to come here and hang with me, I want you to get into the habit of just laying your burdens down. Just, again, life is short. And a lot of us, we carry burdens and we, like the secret identity thing. Peter was afraid to share his identity, with those closest to him, because he's afraid that, you got villains coming after you. You put them at risk. It makes sense. But on another level, I think we're so afraid as people, and I can't say this for everybody, but I know I was really afraid of being intimate and vulnerable. And there's a certain strength in vulnerability. Like when you can just say, yeah, you know what? I do not have it all figured out. I do not have it all together. Whereas, my upbringing, it was the adults seemed like God. They seemed to have it all figured out. There was never any doubts. Well, they never shared their doubts with us. Because, you just don't do that. But my kids saw it all, They were like, wow, it's okay, Dad, I honestly, there's a certain power in that. And I think any of you guys raising kids now, you don't have to get into all the gory details. Geez, there's certain things you shouldn't talk to your kids about ever. But it's okay to hear, I think, it's okay for them to hear that you're struggling financially. Or, hey, you know what? Can we hold off and do this another day because of the paycheck situation? And if your kids are good kids, it'll foster compassion and understanding. They'll be like, oh, wow, good to know, Dad, or, well, what can I do to help? You'd be amazed what your kids do. Just try to step up and help out. Maybe they'll do their chores and complain a little bit less about how rough they have it, But we are responsible for ourselves first, before we can be responsible for anybody else. If you're a parent, it's a little different, right? You're responsible for the little lives that are in your, in your sphere, on your radar, so to speak. That's a phrase I use a lot. God's blessed you with a family. You got to take care of them. But you got to find time to let go and do the things that you love to do. I love this. I love drawing. I mean, it's another quiet night. And there's a motivational thing. And I would ask you, whatever it is that you need to do to be motivated, like whatever you want to accomplish, maybe it's finishing a certain book, you can do it. But ask yourself, what can I do to stay motivated to get this goal done? There was a phrase I heard, and the phrase is no 0 days. And basically what that means is you have no gaps. There's no gaps. You do whatever it is you need to do, and you do it a little bit every day. Whatever the challenge is. Whenever you're not working on your project for a day, you got to avoid the 0. You don't want to have a 0 day. So it's like no 0 days. And I wish I could say I'm drawing every day, especially for you guys. I would love to do that every day. But I'm thinking about content a lot more, and I can't wait to see how this is going to turn out. So anyway, I guess as a parting thought, I would say be good to yourself and take care of yourself, because if you're responsible for other people in your life, you got to have the energy to take care of them, and you're not going to have that energy if you don't take the time out for yourself first. So whether that be a workout routine, something creative, because the last thing your family needs is for you to just burn out, just crash and burn. So take care of your mind, take care of yourselves, and until I see you next time, no 0 days. God bless.